Hello sweet beans, my name is Soleil and welcome back to the Little Reader's Corner. Today we have a lot to talk about. So basically this is all of my recent watches, recent views, the recent movies that I have watched in the last couple of months. So this goes back to about May or June, and there's a lot on this list, so let's get started. We have here a pumpkin spice rooibos from Trader Joe's. Oh, and it's beautiful, perfect temperature. Okay, hang on. Now that is a good time. Okay, let's get going. So first off, we have Wish Dragon, which you may have heard me talk about before. I have been waiting for Wish Dragon since I think they released like a teaser in 2019. I think, maybe. Well, I know Jimmy Wong teased it in around 2019, so I was super excited. Then of course, 2020, I'm pretty sure that it got delayed because I think it was supposed to come out a little bit earlier, which I was really bummed about. But creativity, artistry takes time, especially in stressful situations. So when it came out, I was so excited. I had such high hopes, but I was also really terrified because I was so freaking excited about it. And it was absolutely darling, completely lovely, wonderful, fan-freaking-tastic. Oh my gosh. It's basically the story about this young boy who grows up in this city. It's like a kind of fictionalized city. I think it's based off an actual city, but like, you know, a little bit more futuristic, technological. And he makes this best friend when they're both really young, and they are just so tight. They do everything together. Then she moves away because her dad gets a new job, and he doesn't see her until they're about in their 20s, and he just wants his best friend back. And it's such a lovely story. He finds this old jade teapot, and then he gets this wish dragon that comes out of it. He gets 3 wishes from this dragon, and all he wants is his best friend. He doesn't want love, riches, power, any of that. Then as he's trying to get her back and get back into her world, there are some complications, and it's just fantastic. It's so cozy, comfortable. It gives you so many emotions. I've seen it so many times. It's on Netflix. It's lovely. Next up, I saw Cruella in theaters. So exciting. I am a Regal Unlimited member. I got my membership January of 2020. Isn't that how the story goes? I was so excited. And the funny thing is about Regal Unlimited members is basically for the first year, you pay monthly, although I think you can also pay annually, but you basically commit to not being able to cancel your subscription. So you're roped in for a whole year. So I was like, oh my God. I literally did the math with Jade. We looked at all of the 2020 releases and did the math if like out of these big box releases, if I was gonna use the subscription. And since I go to the movies at least once a week, or at least used to, starting to now again, yeah, it's really worth it. Not at all sponsored, but I only pay $20 a month and I see as many movies as I want. There are no weekly limits. You can see any new movie. You can see movies back to back. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. So I got it in 2020 and couldn't use it after the first 2 months. But then this year in June, I was able to start back up again, and then they started charging me once I started using it again, which was really great. So I saw Cruella with Maddie. We were both pretty excited, but didn't really know what we were in for, and it was really good. Like, it was a very complex background. It lines up pretty well with 101 Dalmatians. Is it 1001 Dalmatians? It's 1001 Dalmatians. 101 Dalmatians. I have no idea. How do you say that movie? 101 Dalmatians? I think that's it. So apparently it lines up pretty well. I haven't seen the Dalmatian movie in quite a while, but there are 2 characters in Cruella that are in the Dalmatian movie, and like it's pretty accurate, which I know from Maddie, because Maddie was like, oh my gosh, those are the guys. And like over the course of the movie, you see them kind of like become more those characters, and it makes sense. And then there's the background of like how she gets her car, and it's just really interesting. It's pretty bold in the beginning. It has like a pretty wild step, and there's like a couple of twists and turns, which I really enjoyed those as well. And I find her character really fascinating. I think the background that they gave her totally makes sense with who she becomes, but then with a lot more of an edge later. I really enjoy, we call them villain backstories, but most of the time I don't think they're necessarily as villainous as they are portrayed later on. I know it's a bold claim, but I think that they are just pursuing their own personal interests without thinking of others. And usually in Disney movies, it's a lot more extreme than it would be in real life, but I prefer to see it from their perspective and try to see why they're going about things this way. So Cruella, really good. Next I saw In the Heights. So In the Heights is actually based off of a Broadway musical, which I didn't know. I thought this was like an original movie, but it's based off a musical. And I had no idea what it was about. I saw the trailer. The trailer is kind of vague on the general plot. It just shows a lot of like character dynamics and like little bits of what could be going on. But I really enjoy those movies where it's a bunch of different characters, a bunch of different perspectives, and there's a general theme or a general storyline, but you see all of their stories all at once. This wasn't exactly that, but it was pretty close. So all these characters are going through different things in this neighborhood in New York. They all know each other, they're all connected, they're all very close. And there is a large theme of undocumented immigrants, and specifically people who are on DACA, and what's happening to all of the dreamers as DACA kind of unravels. It was such a beautifully and well done story. It is a musical, so there is sporadic singing, but I think most of the time it totally like melds into the story, and it's the kind of singing like Les Mis where it just blends really well. There was one scene where they were dancing on a building sideways. That one didn't fully flow into the story, but like it works and it was beautiful. So the whole thing was very emotional. I cried 2 or 3 times, and there's a lot of really catchy songs in there as well. Just very good. Now, I saw A Quiet Place 2, which I really enjoyed A Quiet Place, first one, and I was really looking forward to seeing A Quiet Place 2, even though I am terrified of seeing anything scary. Freaks me out, but these ones, and there are a couple other scary movies, I will absolutely go see, because just the storytelling and all of the other aspects of it, very well done. Especially A Quiet Place, the sound design, phenomenal. You basically can't eat popcorn during either the first one or the second one, because the way that they change the sound in that theater is so good, so good. So it was a wonderful follow-up to the first one. They kept so many of the amazing things that they did so well in the first one, but then just continued the story, and it all totally made sense. You find out more what happens before the first one, where it's kind of like this alien-ish invasion with these creatures that are very sensitive to sound, so you have to stay quiet so that they don't hear you and, you know, eat you. So you find out the day of when it happened and what happened, and it's, oh god, it's so good. And the ending for this one really leaves it open to a third one, which is just wonderful. It's just great. I saw Black Widow, so I wasn't too thrilled to see Black Widow. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really enjoy watching everything in chronological order and figuring everything out, and I love how it's very character focused as well, and it's focused on all these characters coming together throughout these movies. So I went to go see Black Widow, and she's kind of my least favorite character in Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've talked to Jade about it, and Jade has some fantastic points about why I'm wrong, which is always great. And I never was able to connect to her. I don't know if it's just the acting or her character background or any of that, or if I just connect to other characters more, but I just have never really fully connected with her character. So this one was really interesting because I figured either I would come out of the theater having more background on who she is and appreciate her character more, or maybe not. So I didn't really change my opinion on her as a character. I did enjoy seeing more of that background, but it actually didn't go as deep as I wanted it to. I thought going into the movie, there would be a lot more of the before times before she joined the Avengers. And it was more like, it was like a slideshow. Like there was the beginning where you find out like who she was, and then you see kind of just like a couple images and little clips as the credits are rolling into the movie about what happened in between then, and then we're in the after time. So that was a little funky. I wished we saw more, but I did enjoy all of the other characters. So I loved her sister, who was played by, what's her name? I don't remember her name, but that one actress. I really enjoyed how she portrayed her character. She brought in more comedy into the role, which I think is something that I appreciate more in Marvel. I totally understand that's not part of Black Widow's character, which is totally fine, but it's just something I enjoy more. So yeah. I saw Green Knight. So this is an A24 production, which if you don't watch A24 movies or you haven't seen any of them, so A24 did 1917, and ooh, I'll put up a couple more that they did, but they have a really fantastic, not really a spin on movies, but just a different creative vision when they go into them. So they put a lot more emphasis on other storytelling aspects than necessarily narrative or character, but that's not true either. It's just more of an artistic vision, I think. So Green Knight, didn't know any of the background of Green Knight. I just knew A24 production, I am ready. And it was very much in their style. It was very artistic, very flowing. There were a couple of moments where they kind of tricked you in a way, which was really fantastic. And there was a lot of emphasis on color during the movie as well as sound. And they just pulled it all together so well. And it was so interesting. I really enjoyed it. The bros that were sitting 2 seats down from me fell asleep, which they clearly didn't know what they were signing up for. Also, A24 does a lot more of slow moving plot, so it's not the action-packed of Hollywood, but it has so many other fantastic elements to it, so good shit. Oh, I watched Inside, directed by Bo Burnham. So I haven't watched a lot of Bo Burnham in the past, haven't really cared about Bo Burnham in the past, not for any specific reason. I just watch other things usually. I do appreciate him as a comedian sometimes. I've heard some of his jokes, seen some of it. I had an ex who was like really obsessed, so I watched a couple like little bits of specials, but not like a full thing. And then this came out. I know quite a few people were talking about it when it first came out on Netflix. Everyone was freaking out. I was doing something over there, minding my own business, and at some point, I just had one of those evenings where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this Bo Burnham comedy special. Like, we'll just see how it goes. I'll just watch a little bit of it. I was scrolling, I like saw the little preview of it on Netflix. I was like, okay, let's watch the little preview run through. Watched it and I was like, huh, that is amazing. Like the little preview is like so well done. And so I watched the preview thing 2 more times. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's see what this is all about. I watched the whole thing and it was exactly what I needed at that moment. I enjoyed some of the songs and comedy bits in it a lot more than others. Some of them really stuck with me and I listened to them on repeat for the next couple of days. Some of them were just eh. But the whole thing, it just gave me kind of like an inner sense of validity. I was like, yeah, there it is. And now it's interesting looking back on that time because a lot of things have changed and a lot of things have become more normalized and all that. So I thought it was just a really fascinating slice of time and captured so well with like poignant humor. Oh my gosh, I saw Free Guy and I was really excited to see it. I have been seeing, Ryan Reynolds has like a YouTube channel where he posts like the most random clips of all the random things he's doing. He's all over the place. He's like a business entrepreneur. He started his own like phone company and all of his commercials. Any commercials that he does for himself are really funny and just well done. He did the commercial for his phone company that was like the devil with horns. that then the Love Story song that Taylor re-recorded was used on, and everyone was like, oh my God. That was really funny because I didn't realize that Taylor was re-releasing her music in her own version. But I had like watched that commercial and I was like, oh wow, that's wild. Oh my gosh, look at that. And then I saw a little bit later, everyone was freaking out and they were like, did you know, in this like random commercial? I'm like, no, that's Ryan Reynolds' commercial. Anyways, so he'd been teasing this movie Free Guy for quite a while, but there was never any sliver of context of like what it was, that it was a movie, that it had a plot, all of these things. So I think I saw a blip of a commercial for it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. Holy crap, there it is. And I went to go see it and I saw it in 4D. Listen, 4D, what is advertised as 4D at Regal and at other cinemas is a sham, is a lie, because 4D is the dimension of time. What they are giving you is actually what 3D is supposed to be, because it has like sights, sounds, smells, all of the sensory things. But 3D movies came out like 15 maybe years ago and they were just kind of meh and just made it, you know, that they looked 3D, but it wasn't actually a 3D experience. So now 4D, whatever. 4D movies, even though the lie is in the name, are fantastic. Oh my gosh, what an experience. So as a Regal Unlimited member, I only have to pay like this, I only have to pay the surcharge amount, which is like $8. So if you're actually gonna go see a movie, seeing a 4D movie will be quite expensive. I wouldn't recommend it every time, but for certain kinds of movies, 4D makes it a full-on experience. So basically there is like lightning, clouds, thunder, like motion chairs, there are smells, but like it's safe these times, thank goodness. They have like a whole thing about it. Not recommended for anyone with back problems, pregnant, or like so many other things. Flashing lights, movement in your chair, air blowing, punches in the chair, like just so many things. They list like 15 things that they do. Bonkers. So in this movie, it's basically like a video game world, but there are like these politics about the video game happening outside of the video game, and everyone inside the video game is just out to make money and get rid of their aggression and all these things. So there's this non-playable character, an NPC, in the video game who suddenly realizes he wants more out of life and becomes like omniscient, like he becomes AI. And two people who created the game, who are like working underneath this guy that kind of like stole all this stuff, they start to realize, oh my gosh, wait, we created AI. And there are just all these things that are happening as they're trying to like take down this like big bad, and all these other things are happening and he's becoming AI, and it's so fascinating. But since it's like in a video game, it's like so cool to see it in 4D. So cool. Oh my gosh, I saw Respect, which is the biopic of Aretha Franklin and Aretha Franklin's life. So I've listened to Aretha Franklin's music, enjoyed it. I knew just about nothing of her life, career, any of that. And oh my goodness, it was so well done. All of these like historical biopics are just so good these days. Oh my goodness, the storyline throughout it of like telling how she like grew through the music business and stood up for herself and just kept at it and didn't listen to people who said that she should be doing this or that, or she can't be doing it. Just a phenomenal story, a phenomenal woman. And I always love at the end of these movies, they like show actual pictures and like historical facts and like what happened between when the movie ends and now, and just phenomenal, just phenomenal. Oh my gosh, back to another Marvel movie. So I saw ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I have been so excited to watch this. I had no idea how it ties into the larger plot, but I heard about it, I think either at the end of 2019 or 2020, when they teased it in like the big upcoming releases. Had no idea what the movie was really gonna be about, but it looked fascinating. I was really excited. So finally comes out, saw it the first day it came out, and It was everything I wanted it to be and more. It is in at least my top 3, if not one of my new favorite Marvel movies of all time. The actors in it, just, oh my gosh, loved them so much. The story, I think one of the best that Marvel has come up with recently, at least, and how it ties into everything else. So I know that there were comic books beforehand. I know that this character existed before the movie was, you know, brought into production, but I don't know much about the comic books. So let me know if you have any info on that, because I would love to know. But just as a newcomer watching the movie, so freaking good. I love the background that they brought into it, and oh my gosh, it's always so fun to see the little like hints and Easter eggs that Marvel throws at people who've seen all the other Marvel movies, especially with like the end scenes and all of that. And oh my gosh, watching the credits every single time, it blows my mind how Disney as a corporation now has like Lucasfilm's sound doing all of the like sound editing and sound design, and then they have like the Disney legal team doing all of the legal information and stuff. Then they have the Marvel production team, and just so many people collaborating all together. And like at this point the credits are at least 10 minutes long, which, oh my gosh, such a good time. And then last movie I saw was The Eyes of Tammy Fay, which I hadn't heard of until I was looking at what had come out that week, and I saw that one and I was like, what is this? Who is this? Andrew Garfield, Jessica Chastain? Sure. Watched the trailer, was confused. It's basically about the televangelists Tammy Fay and Jim Bakker. I have vaguely heard about them, knew nothing else. I was like, you know what? It'll be interesting. I do love biopic movies, as we know, and I figured I'd just check it out, see what it was about. Oh my gosh, this movie was fantastic. My favorite part about it was how it really focused on the moral gray of what happened with these two people. They basically did this like television empire, one of the top 10 channels on TV at that time, and they were just like a Christian news network, and they made millions, almost I think billions of dollars of donations, which they mostly pocketed themselves, but they also used it for good. So they were kind of committing fraud, but also still doing a good thing. And they thought in their mind that they were doing a good thing. And it was just such a moral gray area that they really focused on, and they focused on who they were as kids, how they met, how they like really formed these identities, and also how the media kept portraying Tammy Fay as like this hysterical woman who was always seen crying with her makeup on, and they didn't at all appreciate her for who she is, and that like the makeup she was putting on was a part of her identity and who she wanted to be. Like, she didn't care what all of these people were saying. She was being her truest self. So even though I don't at all agree with what they did, really, I really enjoy seeing the moral gray of all of that. Thank you so much for watching. Those were all of my recent watches for movies, and next time I will talk about some shows that I'm watching as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you have recently seen, how you enjoyed it, and all of that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!